Mark was a man woven from the fabric of integrity. Orphaned at a tender age, he was raised by his grandmother, a woman whose knees were worn from prayer and whose heart was full of wisdom. She taught him the 3 pillars of a good life: be respectful, remain faithful, and always speak the truth. In the village, people often whispered that Mark was too righteous. He never cheated a soul, never told a lie, and harbored no jealousy toward those who had more than him. But Mark's life faced a violent storm when he was just 9 years old. A sudden illness ravaged his body, leading to an emergency surgery. The surgeon saved his life, but the cost was steep. "I am sorry," the doctor told his weeping grandmother in the hallway. "The damage was extensive. Mark will never be able to father children." When the news was gently broken to young Mark after his recovery, he didn't scream. Instead, he went to his bedside, knelt, and prayed a prayer that would echo through eternity. "Lord, I know the doctors have spoken, and I know I am broken. But you are the Lord of miracles. Have mercy on me. If you can bless me with only one child, I will be forever grateful." Mark grew into a devout Christian, a man of standing in his community, yet the shadow of his infertility eroded his self-esteem. He felt incomplete. At 25, he fell in love with Linda, a woman from his church. Being a man of truth, he sat her down before the wedding. "Linda, I cannot give you children," he confessed, his voice trembling. "I am infertile." Linda, young and in love, took his hands. "I love you for who you are, Mark. We will face this together." They married, and the years began to bleed into one another. Year 1 passed. Then 2, 3, 4, 5. The silence in their home was deafening. Relatives began to click their tongues. The village gossips whispered as Mark walked by. "A dry tree," they called him. Linda tried to turn a deaf ear, but the pressure was a slow poison. Mark remained steadfast, holding her at night, whispering, "Let us wait on God, Linda. He hears us." It was then that the wolves encircled the fold. Men began to approach Linda when Mark was away working. "Why waste your beauty on a barren land?" they asked. "We can give you a child." The loudest voice belonged to Luke. Luke was everything Mark was not: wealthy, tall, handsome, and arrogant. He was also Mark's best friend. He knew Mark's secret and used it as a weapon. He cornered Linda repeatedly. "The whole village knows he is empty, Linda. Don't die childless." After years of shame, Linda's resolve cracked. She convinced herself that a child, any child, was better than none. She began an affair with Luke. For months later, the impossible happened for her, but it was the death knell for her marriage. She was pregnant. Fear consumed her. When she finally confessed, the news shattered Mark. "Luke," he gasped, tears streaming down his face. "My brother in spirit. How could you?" That night, Mark cried until he had no tears left. He lay on the floor, feeling like a small boy again. "Lord, where are you?" he cried out. "I have been faithful." In the deepest hour of the night, a peace that surpassed understanding filled the room. An angel of the Lord visited Mark in a dream, radiant and commanding. "Mark," the voice boomed like rushing waters. "God has heard your cry. Do not hold on to bitterness. Next year, by this time, you shall hold a son in your arms. But this promise is not with Linda. Let her go." Mark awoke with a clarity he had never felt. The divorce was painful but peaceful. He signed the papers, wished Linda well, and walked away from the life he had built, carrying nothing but his faith. The wilderness and the well. Months passed. Mark was lonely, the silence of his new house amplifying his grief. When a crusade came to a neighboring open field, Mark attended simply to escape the quiet. The atmosphere was electric, heavy with the presence of the Spirit. Suddenly, the preacher stopped mid-sermon. He looked out into the sea of faces. "I hear the name. Mark. Is there a Mark here?" Mark's heart hammered as he rushed to the front. "God is speaking," the preacher declared, placing a hand on Mark's trembling shoulder. "He says I must pray for your marriage and for your children. The delay is over." Mark fell to his knees as the preacher prayed. The following Sunday, his pastor approached him. "Mark, there is someone I want you to meet. She is new to our village. Her name was Leah." She was quiet, with kind eyes that held a sadness mirroring Mark's own. As they spoke, they realized their stories were written with the same ink. Leah had been divorced by her previous husband because she was barren. She had been told she would never carry a life. "I am infertile," Mark told her. "I am barren," Leah replied. But in their shared brokenness, they found love. 3 months later, they were married in a beautiful garden wedding, 2 dry trees planted together by the river of grace. A few weeks after the wedding, as they cuddled on the porch, Leah pulled away. "I feel strange," she said, clutching her stomach. "I feel like vomiting." Mark rushed her to the clinic, his heart racing, afraid it was an illness. They sat in the waiting room, holding hands, bracing for bad news. The doctor walked in, looking at a file, then at the couple. A smile broke across his face. "Congratulations, Mr. Mark. Leah is 5 weeks pregnant." The room spun. They both burst into tears, loud, joyful sobs that startled the nurses. It was impossible. It was medically refutable. But it was true. They kept the secret close, guarding the miracle until Lee's belly swelled so large it could no longer be hidden. The village was stunned. "It must be IVF," the skeptics said. "It cannot be Mark's child," the gossips hissed. But Mark and Leah did not care. They walked through the village hand in hand, heads held high, thanking God with every step. On the day the baby was born, the cry of a healthy, bouncing baby boy filled the delivery room. Mark held the child, looking at his tiny fingers and toes. Suddenly, he remembered the prayer of a 9-year-old boy in a hospital bed, "If you can bless me with only one child, I will be grateful." Tears dropped onto the baby's blanket. "God is faithful," he whispered to Leah, who was weeping with joy. They named him Isaac, which means laughter, for God had brought laughter back into their lives just as he did for Abraham and Sarah. Isaac grew up to be a handsome, strong boy who loved the Lord, a living testimony to a promise kept. Whenever Mark and Leah stood before the church to give their testimony, they always ended with the same words. We should not give up on God's promises. The medical report is not the final report. Wait on the Lord, and be patient, for he is always on time.